Thanks everybody for joining SDITE mentoring session. And really focusing on faculty advisors and student chapter liaisons, and really hoping to kind of kick off our 2021-2022 school year with a good note. So we've got a great panel here, and I'll introduce them in just a few minutes. But before we introduce them, I want to take a little bit of an opportunity to get to know our attendees and the folks that are on the call a little better. So I believe Jeff is going to help us with a couple of poll questions. And the first one is, what role are you currently serving in? So if you'll click that, and as it mentions there, if you know it is other, you can drop us a line in the chat window as to what other role you fill. And then the second question there is, how many years have you been in your current role? Just so we can all kind of get an idea of who's on the call, and our esteemed panelists will be able to kind of tailor some of their responses maybe towards this. So we'll give it just another couple of minutes. I think we're looks like we're getting close to our attendee numbers there. So we'll give it another 30 seconds or so. Okay, looks like we've slowed down with our responses, so we'll go ahead and move forward. So looks like a fairly even split between section leadership and student chapter liaisons, with a few faculty advisors, which is great. And then a couple of others that if you want to, you can drop an explanation in the chat window there for us if you are one of those others. The other, I guess on the second question, it looks like most people have been in the role for less than 3 years. I guess all except one. One person has been in their role for more than 5 years, but everyone else has been really either less than a year or in that 1 to 3 year bracket. So so great. Thank you guys for that information, and for the panelists. You can keep that in mind as we go throughout our discussion. Share the results. I guess stop sharing and close the results. Hopefully I've done that correctly. I'll go ahead and introduce myself and the panelists. I'm Jody Peace. I'm with GAITE in Georgia, and a member of the Georgia section. I'm also the co-chair of the Education and Student Chapter Committee for Southern District. So I'm as excited to moderate the panel discussion as I am to learn from our panelists today. We'll start out with some brief introduction of the panelists. First of all, Dr. Virginia Sisiapaku is a professor of civil engineering at UAB, and she's been there since 2002. She was the founding director of the UAB Trend Lab and has 25 years of experience in transportation, as well as academia and consulting. A lot of her research is related to construction or congestion management, traffic safety, and performance monitoring. In addition to her technical interest, she's been an active member in ITE for 30 years and is ITE fellow since 2014. In 2002, she founded the UAB ITE student chapter, and she currently serves as a student chapter's faculty advisor and has since the founding. She's led the UAB traffic team to win the SDITE competition and also represent Southern District at the international competition in 2020. And she served in various other ITE roles in both Alabama as well as SDITE. And she was in SDITE's leadership program and was the ECOB Engineering Educator of the Year. So Dr. Sisiapaku, thank you for joining us. Up next, we've got Brian Bartnick. Brian is a licensed PE with a bachelor's of science in civil engineering from Southern Illinois University and a master's of science in civil engineering from UT Knoxville. He began his career at Tennessee DOT in 2013 and is currently serving as Region 1 Assistant Traffic Engineer, working out of Knoxville, but covering most of East Tennessee. He's very active in Tennessee section, of ITE, and he's the professional liaison to the student chapter at UT Knoxville, and has been serving in that role since 2014. And he was recently elected to the role of section rep, and he begins that term in the fall. Up next, we've got Dr. Wayne Sarasua. Dr. Sarasua is probably known to most of you. Usually he's giving some sort of Clemson chant or cheering on the Clemson team at one of our Southern District meetings. But he is in the Department of Civil Engineering, the professor of the Department of Civil Engineering at Clemson University. He's been the student chapter faculty advisor for almost 30 years. And not all of that was at Clemson. He spent his first 6 years, I believe, at Georgia Tech, and then now at Clemson. And he's actually the co-advisor with Dr. Ogle. And he's a way past president, as he put it, of the South Carolina section. And he was formerly an officer in the Georgia section during his time that he was in Georgia. And last but not least, Kimberly Luang is the acting pedestrian program manager of the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency, where she oversees the development and implementation of COVID-19 response and quick build safety, street safety improvements. She's been involved with ITE since its since helping to co-found the UC Berkeley Cal ITE chapter in 2008, and she served as the Cal ITE student chapter president, the San Francisco Bay ITE president, and the 2019 Western District LAC co-chair, and also the Western District Student Funding and Initiatives Committee chair. She is the 2021 Western District Secretary Treasurer, and even though she has that role, she continues to serve as the professional liaison to the Cal ITE and newly chartered Stanford ITE student chapters. So Kimberly, thank you for joining us early in the morning from your side, or mid-morning, I guess, from your side, but thank you for joining us. So we're going to start out with a few questions to the panelists. We're going to take a little break about midway through, and I've got some slides talking about the student chapter liaison role, and then we'll answer some more questions. Just a couple of housekeeping items. I think you had to click an acknowledgement, but we are recording this session. It will be available on the Southern District ITE YouTube channel. And also, if you have any questions that you would like to ask the panelists, Becky Rogers is helping me out monitoring the chat window, and so you can drop those messages in the chat window, and we'll try to work those in. So start out with a couple of faculty advisor questions. Dr. Sisiapaku, kind of in your words, what's the role of faculty advisor?
I think the role of faculty advisors is to keep things going. Often we have changes in leadership from year to year as students come in or graduate and so on. So they provide some stability for the student chapter, provide mentorship. They help the student chapter recruit new members. Often here at UAB, for example, we give presentations to undergraduate classes to introduce them to transportation engineering early on and try to recruit from there. But I think, it is also important for the faculty advisor to secure resources to help the student members participate in conferences like outside or Southern District ITE and so on. And I think they can also serve as role models. They are the face of the transportation professional sometimes to the students that have started expressing an interest in transportation. And their role is always to support them and inspire them and motivate them as they enter the transportation profession.
Great. Dr. Sarasua, maybe kind of building on that, anything additional? I know that was a very good coverage and good comprehensive response, but anything additional or maybe even some characteristics that make a good faculty member or a faculty advisor?
Anyway, Virginia, that was an awesome answer. I would echo everything she said. And so 100% there. Just a couple of comments, I think enthusiasm is contagious, and I think it's very important for the faculty advisor to show enthusiasm in their role, because if they expect students to be enthusiastic, active members, and so if the faculty advisor is not very active, okay, there's no doubt that a chapter will begin to stagnate over time. It's, and it's not like we have to do so much work, but, as Virginia was saying, we help push and give direction. We also, we know people in the profession, so we can help, foster communication with and all that networking opportunities and stuff like that. And so again, I think if a chapter does well and the leadership team does really well and is very active based on the help and the nudging of the faculty advisor, then it's very easy for the faculty advisor to almost sit back and let the momentum carry on and from time to time. And as the faculty advisor, so in other words, the faculty advisor doesn't have to be super active all the time, but it does, if the faculty advisor is a hands-off person, over time, it'll begin to, the activeness of a chapter will begin to go down and down and down. And so we want to keep it up at that level. And so my role again is not to just, I let the students lead the chapter, but I do nudge them. And we also have, meetings, the board has meetings and I give them ideas, but I do try to, step back a little bit, and let the students run the meeting, because it is a student organization. It's not the faculty is the emperor. Anyway. So again, then I think the faculty advisor traits of a good faculty advisor, enthusiasm. And as you can see, I am very enthusiastic with, I think, what I've seen IT has given back so much to me, and so what I put into it, I get out of it. And I think the students, see that. And so I, if I keep up that enthusiasm, the students, it's just a natural thing for the students as well.
Good. Yeah, I think that you certainly have that enthusiasm. You talked a little bit about how you engage, with your students, and I think that's important to. There's kind of that fine line there, right? Of being a faculty advisor, but yet letting it being a student-led organization.
That's right.
So
that's right.
very good. Dr. Sisiapaku, how are faculty advisors usually selected? I know for those of us that aren't in the academic world, it's a bit of a question of what happens on campus, right? So how does that process work, specifically at UAB?
I think it varies a lot. At the UAB, it is a de facto choice because I'm the only regular faculty in transportation. And, I thought the 19 years was a good record, but then Wayne came with 30 years. So, but in larger programs, again, faculty advisors should have an interest and a commitment. And so, they may be assigned or they may self-select themselves, saying that, I volunteer to serve as a faculty advisor. And of course, there are other organizations. So at UAB, we try not to have more than a couple of student groups that we advise. So, I serve as SWE faculty advisor and of course, IT student chapter faculty advisor. So depending on the size of the program, there may be some flexibility, but I think I will build on what Wayne said, that, the person needs to have a commitment to IT themselves, some experience and some enthusiasm, and the willingness to give their time to bring professional development opportunities to the students and so on. So typically it's not just an assignment, it's something that you select to do as a volunteer to be a faculty advisor for IT student chapter.
Dr. Sarasua, I know you've had experience in at both Georgia Tech as well as Clemson. Any different perspective on maybe some of the larger, the programs that have multiple faculty members where, how do they select? You guys arm wrestle, or how do you guys select over who gets who gets to lead the student chapter?
Very funny. It's definitely not arm wrestling. In fact, it's like, okay, who's going to volunteer? But one of the things I just want to mention is I've never heard a situation where the students choose the faculty advisor, and not that that's not a good thing, but and it's usually like faculty advisors are well, they volunteer, or it's like the chair of the department is identifying, well, okay, we all need service, and so all right, we need somebody to be the ITE faculty advisor, right? And so, but yes, I've been the faculty advisor for 30 years. And if somebody else volunteered, hey, I would be much more than willing to step down. But in all honesty, I am enthusiastic about it. And, I want to see the chapter be successful. It is just such a great thing for students to be involved with ITE. There's just so many rewards, there's not a negative there, And so with regard to both Georgia Tech and Clemson, I basically, the chapter actually didn't, it did exist years ago, and then it basically no longer existed. So I had to restart the chapter when I came to Clemson. And then at Georgia Tech, Dr. Parsonson, my mentor, was the advisor. And actually, and then Dr. Musklock also took over. And it was just kind of a natural, hey, it's your turn, and it was like, hey, you're the new kid on the block. There you go. And so yes, it was me volunteering, and I think it's there's the chair of the department will see if there's a willingness, but by all means, if students would want to recruit somebody to, hey, I think we could be a great advisor. What do you think? By all means, I think students could have some say and encourage somebody. Well, because if the faculty see that the students are into it, well, then the faculty might say, hey, okay, yeah, all right, let's do this. And so there. One thing, I'm not sure you're going to ask this, Jody, but one thing I just want to mention. Unfortunately, the role of the faculty advisor is not seen as some big important thing by many civil engineering departments, and I think it's unfortunate. And so, the thing about publish or perish is very, for me, for Virginia, that's the most important thing. Teaching is very important, but publishing, IT advisorship, and accolades and awards are all great and all, but it counts very little in my promotion, for example. And so I do it more for me and for the students than for, my service thing. And so if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we hear a lot when we're talking with different schools, different faculty advisors. Is they've got a full plate, right? They've got research commitments or needs. They've got teaching needs, and this is almost kind of that extracurricular, right? That they have to be willing to put in and do. I guess, and either one of our professors, I guess, could take this, but what could a section do to better engage faculty advisors and maybe even encourage, if they don't feel that the faculty advisor is the right fit, how can they encourage the school or engage with the school to try to identify the best faculty advisor?
And if I can jump in really quick, because I did comment about this in a recent survey, and I think it would be just really super for the leadership of the district or whomever to contact, if a chapter is doing really well, for example, hey, contact that faculty advisor's boss, and say, hey, man, your all's chapter is just dynamite, and that would go a long ways to say, hey, this is pretty good, because see, you all are our department's alumni, and so there is definitely, you give back to our department. So if there are folks in the profession that are contacting the various schools and letting them know that your chapter is, and gosh, your faculty advisor has really been just amazing. And, you know, I've been around for a while, so I don't need any accolades. I really don't. And so I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for all the others because, you know, again, you know, I think there'll be more of a willingness to see if there is, you know, if there is reward within the department. I think there would be more willingness from a faculty advisor to put more time into it. If they get a good, hey, that, you know, what you're doing for the chapter, I heard from, you know, whomever, and that you were really just dynamite or whatever, that would go a long way. And so I just wanted to throw that out there, that any sort of incentives that could be given to the faculty advisors, you know. On the flip side, you know, I hate for y'all to tattletale on an advisor that's not doing well. And so I would prefer you not to contact their boss or anything, but at the same time, you know, contact them, encourage, you know, and say, you know, man, we are all over to support your chapter, you know, and we'll, you know, and we will, you know, if your department does not recognize the chapter very much, I mean, we'd be happy to talk to your chair, et cetera, to encourage more involvement out of the faculty advisor, because I think I'm convinced the faculty advisor is pretty important. And not trying to brag about Clemson, but we've had a lot of student awards over years, and it's not by coincidence. You know, I take little credit except for pushing that momentum forward and then letting the students be dynamite, you know, but it does take a faculty advisor to help that momentum. There are, you know, outliers. So like one chapter, some students will take it upon themselves to do something incredible for that chapter, but and they don't have an active faculty advisor, and that's more of an outlier. That is not the norm. So I think having an active faculty advisor that is engaging, that's willing to go the extra mile, it helps the students to do the same thing, and the awards will come, you know, and those accolades will come. And it would just be great for those accolades to revert back to the department where that faculty advisor is from, because it will definitely benefit the faculty advisor and give them more encouragement to put more into their chapter.
Great. Dr. Siapakun, do you have something to add?
I think it was covered quite well. Another idea is perhaps to recognize the faculty advisors. Maybe in addition to this letter to the chair, maybe, you know, like a little recognition or something like that. Maybe each state will select to kind of recognize a faculty advisor for the year, as we do with other rewards. Of course, we have the educator, the Best Educator Award, but this is one for the whole district. We may actually give a little bit more credit, and people, you know, not us, Wayne and myself, that we've been in this for a long time, but, you know, even the younger faculty may actually see a little extra value of getting involved because they will be recognized. Perhaps, you know, when each student chapter submits their report, and then, you know, the district sends them a little check as an appreciation. Maybe this is where the faculty advisor can be also appreciated if they led the student chapter to have a good year and submit a report. So that's just another idea.
Yeah, I think kind of the common thing there. We need to not take that again. We think the faculty advisor. A lot of times we may catch ourselves thinking the faculty advisor, they're on campus. That's part of their job description. That's what they're supposed to do. We need to think about them just as any of our other volunteers, you know, ITE, you know, Southern District, and then our section level, it's all volunteer, you know, organization, right? We're all volunteers. We need to remember that our faculty advisors are serving as volunteers as well and giving up their time.
And I have another comment, Jody, real quick. One of the things, you know, the traffic bowl has been awesome. I'm a big proponent of the traffic bowl, and I know that one of the reasons to have the traffic bowl was to encourage more participation from students in the district meetings. You know, but my point is that we don't just want a traffic bowl team to come to the district. The district meetings are great for all all students to come and you know, participate and network with professionals. You know, and so. I try to take as many students, you know, we've had 10, 15, 20 students come to these meetings, and I just, you know, anything that the district can do to help encourage this. And for example, you know, staying at the conference hotel, I'm not necessarily so big on that. Why? Because the conference hotel is usually a little expensive, and so many times to be able to see, have a bunch of students come, we do something slightly different, and I say this because the traffic, the district gives back to the various departments to help fund, the traffic ball team to come. Well, what we kind of do is we kind of use that money to help other students to go as well. So in other words, typically we get like 2 rooms because there's usually a male traffic bowler and a female traffic bowler. Hopefully, typically, I like that spread. The reason is because now I can put like 3 male students or 4 male students in this room and 4 female students in this room, and we can use those monies. So and another example is for the Student Leadership Summit at Georgia Tech. The conference hotel was booked or something. I can't remember exactly. So we were allowed to use the money to stay where we wanted to. So we rented a house and we've sent 15 students down. And so my point is anything that the district can do to help encourage student chapters to send more than just the traffic ball team. Because like I said, the Southern District meetings, Southern District is just awesome. That's one of the reasons why I'm an enthusiastic advisor, is because the district has been great to me. And it's just, these meetings have been great fun. They've been great networking, great, all around. I don't think a student's ever been disappointed about going to these meetings. And so if we can encourage more participation from the students, I'm all in, because the students are the future of the district.
Definitely. We're going to kind of change gears a little bit. I'm going to share a couple of slides and give my panelists just a couple of minutes of break here. But kind of transitioning, we've talked about the faculty advisors and how this is a volunteer position and anything we can do to support them and help them. One of the things that ITE is really pushing, and this has happened in some of the sections, and it hasn't happened in others. It's kind of a new role in some other sections, is the student liaison. So just if it's new to you, then here's a little description of the roles and responsibilities up on the screen now. If it's not new to you, maybe there's some new ideas in here. But serving really is that connection from the student chapter to the section. The faculty advisors are there on campus, but they're often not able to be as involved in the sections or the section board, at least, as they may like to be. So that student liaison can report directly back to the board. They can assist the student chapters. I know both of our faculty advisors have mentioned, helping with meeting planning when they need it, that they're able to help with that. But the student chapter liaison can also fill that role and help connect them with a broader audience within the professional community. Encouraging the participation in student leadership summits. That's a fairly new thing for Southern District. But you participating in it, I'll tell you, the one that we had, the in-person one that we were able to sneak in at Georgia Tech right before COVID happened. It was an amazing event, a really great event. It's great to get back on campus. For any of us that have been away from campus maybe a little longer than we would like to admit, it's great to get back on campus, and just the enthusiasm and energy that the students have is a lot of fun. You can assist them with the annual reports that they have to prepare, encouraging the involvement in section scholarships, district scholarships, the award application process, and then, as Dr. Sarasua pointed out, the importance of those district meetings, both the annual meeting and the Student Leadership Summit, being there to encourage their participation in that. If you're able to go to the annual meeting, being there to help introduce them to people. You are kind of that liaison, that connection. This slide, and we can try to come up with a way to get these out or make this available. I guess it will also be on the recording, but we did kind of go through because there's a lot of overlap, right? So who does what? There's the student leaders. It is a student-led organization. So most of the responsibilities are primarily theirs. There are a few things, coordinating with the college institute leadership. I'm sure that our professors on here end up doing more internal paperwork than what they would like to do. Just making sure everything is handled and taken care of on campus. So that really becomes kind of their primary role. For the student chapter liaison, you're really assisting those student members in connecting them to the larger ITE as a larger organization. Also, there to help that transition. I mentioned, introducing them to professionals when they're at meetings, or if they come to your section monthly meeting, being there to help introduce them. And then the kind of the fourth column there that we haven't really talked about a lot today, but the SDITE, the Education Student Chapter Committee, we're also there to help support in that transition. We're planning some events to help with that transition, and help so that we're more than just reviewing student chapter reports and student chapter technical papers. We're really there to help support the first three columns there: the student leaders, the faculty advisors, and the student chapter liaisons. So really, it's I kind of stole this. I think this is Cobb County Schools, which is the county I live in. I think one team, one goal is their tagline. I kind of use that here. We're all we're all wanting to achieve the same thing, right? We want more students to be enthusiastic about transportation in our industry, and so we're all after the same thing, and so we have to work together for that. Just a couple items of upcoming events. This is kind of like the halftime break here, and then we'll jump back into some questions. And I know we've had some good questions asked in the chat box, so we'll jump back to some of these questions. But just a few upcoming events to keep in mind. October 8th at noon, Education Student Chapter Committee is going to be doing an introduction to student chapter leadership. So this is going to be for elected student leaders, faculty advisors if they're able to make it, student chapter liaisons if they're able to make it. Really just kind of introducing them to the resources that the Southern District has available, the expectations that the Southern District has for each of our student chapters, and really trying to make that connection. Late November, we're going to have a workshop developing student chapter reports. I know that's always a challenge of getting those reports done, and the sections need them, the district needs them. So we'll have a workshop in late November. February 26th, which is I think the middle day there of the Student Leadership Summit. We're planning on having a session, kind of a breakout session for those elected student leaders, student chapter leadership as part of the Leadership Summit. We'll work with the students there in Virginia to make this happen, and just have a small session where we can exchange ideas and really talk about challenges that each of the student chapters are facing. And then in early April, we'll have a transitioning to professional member webinar. We'll actually also going to have one of those in the sometime in early November, so that we're capturing students that are about to graduate and talk to them a little bit about what it's like to transition into a professional member and staying involved in ITE. And then last upcoming event before we switch back to the panel, just reminding everybody, the Student Leadership Summit is happening in Blacksburg, Virginia. Virginia Tech and UVA are co-hosting that. So it's going to be in Blacksburg, but both UVA and Virginia Tech are involved in the planning. So super exciting event. We've got some great students in Virginia that have taken up the torch and are planning that event. So that's out there. Mark your calendars, save the date, and plan to join us in Blacksburg. Also, if your company has the opportunity, they do have information on their website about sponsorship. So there's some information out there on social media, as well as on the last connector email that went out. So I guess halftime is over now. We'll jump back to some questions and kind of shifting gears a little bit, talk a little bit more about the student chapter liaison role. Brian, I know you've been involved in that role for several years now with UT Knoxville. We've talked about what that role might include, but in practicality, what does that include? What do you typically do with the students there at UTK?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the simplest way to put it is just being a go-between between the students and the university and T-Site in my case, and Southern District as well. But always reaching out. The way we do it in T-Site, we just got our 6th student chapter now, so we have 6 student chapters in the state. So we have a career development committee, and that chair kind of handles it all, and each of the members are different student liaisons. So I'm a member of that committee, and our chair, we report to the chair, and he'll report back out on other things. But he'll be the one that reaches out initially throughout this semester with important dates for both T-Site Southern District meeting dates or info on scholarships, paper contests, traffic bowl, things like that. He'll reach out there. I'll always, as the liaison, I'll follow up with UT specifically, make sure they're good with everything, see if they have any questions, things like that. But as far as how in-depth you go each semester or each year, it really depends based on the student chapter leaders that you have that year. There's some years where I've helped plan and recruit speakers for every meeting they've had. And there's been other years where I've just stepped back and gave them a list of my contacts and a bunch of contact info for possible speakers, and they had it all themselves. So just really trying to be that connection between the professional life and the students there.
Okay. And for T-Site, does the student chapter liaison, are you guys part of the section board meetings, or is that chair part of the board meetings typically?
I don't think he typically is, but he'll send reports if we have anything specific.
Okay. Excellent. Kimberly, I know that most of the other panelists are Southern District focused. Give us kind of the outside perspective. How does Western District handle student chapter liaisons?
Sure. So I'm actually based in the San Francisco Bay Area ITE section. And at the section level, those boards are assigning professional liaisons to the different universities out here. Not every section in the Western District does it the same way. So for example, in San Francisco, we typically assign one person to each university. If you go to a larger section like Southern California, where they have, I want to say upwards of 10 to 15 schools, they have, I think, 2 or 3 liaisons that are kind of working with all these schools. So every section does it a little bit differently, but we are all connected to our student funding and initiative committee chair at the district level. So that person in that role at the district level is sharing information about funding, awards, competitions at that district level. But really at the section level, my role is to really assist the student chapters with their activity planning for the school year. And that could include things from seeking funding, putting together sponsorship packages, finding guest speakers. And like Brian said, it really differs each year depending on how involved, how motivated, how enthusiastic that student chapter is. Another role that I have there is that I'm also the connection between the student chapter and our section board. So I do actually sit in our board meetings. I'm technically an appointed committee board member, so I do sit in the full board meetings. And that's really allowed us to have a better connection with the section. We're still trying to get our students a little bit more involved. I think the biggest form of involvement at this point is the students seeking funding and scholarship opportunities from our section. But we do try to have some sort of student meeting where the professionals and the students get to meet. And in one year, we actually had a meeting where it was only students presenting. It wasn't as well attended as some of our other meetings, but we're trying to find ways to integrate the students into the section. And the last thing that I really work on is encouraging participation in the SLS as well as the annual meetings. And again, a big piece of that is funding. As Wayne talked about, like really trying to figure out how do we get our students there. And that's something that we really work on at our district level. We have a student endowment fund where we have about $12,000 in funding that we get out every year through various ways. So for example, we even have just a plain travel scholarship to get students to our meetings. We also have funding in forms of like data collection projects or student run competitions, where as a student chapter, you can also get funding to then support your travel to those meetings.
Yeah, so I think that Kimberly, it's great to see, and I know you and I have had several touch points over the past couple of years talking about ways things are done in the Western District versus other districts, but it's you guys have a very well-defined system, and I think that's something we're working towards in the Southern District. I'm going to actually open up this next question to all of our panelists, but Kimberly, I'm going to start with you. So since you're up on the screen here for me, but obviously we're all challenged with the pandemic, right? And I know we were talking offline a little bit before the meeting started about some of the challenges of students being back on campus and in person this semester. Some are still virtual. Do you have any tips or ways that you guys are working in the Western District maybe to re-engage the student chapters and really try to reinvigorate them and get them plugged back in? I know it's been a challenge for ITE sections, right, to maintain membership and maintain attendance at meetings virtually. How are you guys engaging the students?
Yeah, so one of the things that we have found that actually works really well in this virtual setting, which I don't know why we didn't do this before, But with these virtual meetings, there's so many opportunities to collaborate, for student chapters to host meetings together, for you to seek out speakers on the other side of the country. And that has just been such a dramatic change. We've seen an increase in attendance overall at both, the professional level and the student level. Even with this shift to virtual meetings for the last year and a half, we continue to hold our annual meeting. We did 2 virtual annual meetings. We did our SLS virtually. And even for the upcoming year, we've decided to host our SLS in January, still virtual. For the student chapter that's going to be hosting that annual meeting, we're actually in the Bay Area as the San Jose student chapter. They chose to host it virtually because they felt that given their smaller size as a student chapter, it would make it a little bit easier for them to kind of pull together an entire meeting for all the students in the district. So I think that we really made an effort for, even when we were converting, our annual meeting to a virtual format, we made sure to convert our entire student track. That's something that I don't know if you have that in your district, but for the Western district, we actually have an entire student track at our annual meeting to make sure that students have something to go to. Sometimes students go to these meetings and they're not necessarily looking for a professional technical track. They're really looking more for things such as a resume review or a panel discussion. So we make sure that we have an entire track dedicated to that, as well as student-run competitions. I think I might have gone off on a tangent there about some of the things that we do, but I think this virtual platform has been amazing, I think, in keeping our students engaged during this time.
Okay. Dr. Sisiapaku, I'll ask the same question to you. What can we do to re-engage our students? I know that you're back first week back and everybody's back in person. So how can we support that with ITE?
I think, definitely we need to stay involved regardless of the medium that we will use to bring the students together. So of course, it is better to meet face-to-face. We have regular meetings every month. And in some of these, we bring food. And so I think this definitely increases the excitement and the involvement. But even when the times are tougher, I think we still need to schedule those meetings and provide the Zoom meetings. And so we still share the announcements, we still support each other, we still see each other and keep going. So the important thing is to just keep things going and eventually, hopefully we'll get some breaks and we'll bring them back together. So I think this is my message, that the fact that we cannot always meet in person shouldn't actually make us give up on the meetings themselves. Just try to keep things working. And I think that's what we have been doing. And but we are excited now that we're back on campus and we'll try to re-engage the students. And another thing that I would like to say is that often we have a more defined graduate student population that has chosen transportation as their interest, but for the undergraduate students, it is hard for us who are a smaller chapter and a smaller school here at UAB to keep them engaged. So occasionally we have worked with other organizations to have common events like the AC, for example. So in the past, we had invited somebody on campus, to give a presentation, and it was co-hosted by the IT student chapter and the ACE. And that created an opportunity for also recruiting, some members and also, just showing to the students that there are different professional organizations that can benefit them. And that's something, again, we can do either virtually or on campus that has worked for us.
Yeah, I think that Brian, I'm going to come to you next, but I think that the students adapt a little bit more easily to the virtual environment than maybe some of us do. They're used to interacting via text and whatever other mediums that they're using. But Brian, I know you're specifically tied in with UT Knoxville. How are they faring during the virtual environment? How are they bouncing back? What sort of plans are they trying to make?
It's funny. This last year, I had the least amount of work to do. This is one where they jumped on the ball and took off with things. They connected with recent graduates that had gone to other states and tried to did some meetings about that transition from school to work life, transition to others that had gone on to teach at different schools. They've actually held joint meetings with, I think it was University of Alabama, another joint meeting with the University of Maryland. So they really, with the switching to the virtual going on, they really jumped on top of that, reached out to people they met at TRB and just all sorts of different places. So in our case, it was easy. Like you said, the younger generation, they're fully in tune with all of that.
Yeah. Dr. Sarasua, anything else you'd like to add as far as the virtual versus in-person environment? I think you may be muted.
Yeah, so virtual is not all that bad. In fact, we learned that, hey, virtual can be really convenient to get people that would typically not come to be our presenters. For example, at Clemson last year, we got Randy McCourt, international president, who's a good friend of mine, but from Portland, and he joined us virtually. So we can get some amazing speakers that we could not typically get to meet virtually. That all being said, there is nothing like having a student leadership summit or the Southern District meeting in person. That interaction between students at the Student Leadership Summit and the competitions where they can interact, the social, going out and socializing, that whole thing is just fantastic. So what we did at Georgia Tech was great. When we had folks come to Clemson at the first Southern District Student Leadership Summit, that interaction was awesome as well. And there's nothing like a Southern District meeting in person. Just meeting everybody and seeing everybody, and true networking between the students and the in-person networking. It's so much more personal. And so while virtual has its place, I really hope that we're able to do the in-person meetings as well, and especially when it comes to the Student Leadership Summit and the Southern District meeting.
Yeah, I think that Becky had just posted there in the chat box that it is worth keeping some virtual components even after returning in person. Brian, you mentioned something with UT Knoxville, and it kind of goes to to one of the questions that was asked earlier in the chat box about collaboration between other student chapters. So you mentioned about outside of Tennessee, right? Some collaboration that occurred with other student chapters. Are you aware, are the Tennessee student chapters, are they collaborating together, or has this new opportunity that's come up kind of been the first time that this is happening?
Not yet. Nothing that I've seen yet as far as hosting joint meetings or things like that. Yeah, that's funny that they're going outside of state instead of with their competitors in the traffic bowl.
That's right.
Jody, on this
Yes.
question, actually, here in Alabama, we have a good example where student chapters collaborated. So we had student chapters from UAB, Auburn, South Alabama, and UA that worked during the pandemic to put together, to do a service project and put together a PSA that was featuring the different mascots of the 4 universities that participated. And it was about distracted driving. So it was a very great experience for everybody that was involved, and Becky supported this effort. So we appreciate all the support. It was a good opportunity for the chapters to kind of brainstorm together on how to make this work. And I think the end product was fantastic, and it was shared, I believe, in the Southern District IT as well. And this is an example. And in the past, also UAB has invited students from other universities in Alabama that do not have a student chapter. So we had a few meetings where they came down from Huntsville, for example. And I think this is also important because, when they see the value of the student chapter, maybe they will pressure their faculty, to initiate the effort and establish a student chapter. So we've done this with the University of Alabama as well. And they started the student chapter after those initial events. So that's another way for student chapters to interact, but also for universities to interact with student chapters if they don't have their own.
really feeding off that enthusiasm between the different student chapters. And I like that you mentioned there that there's that opportunity there to some of maybe the student chapters that haven't quite reached a state of maturity or are still growing, being able to kind of feed off the enthusiasm of those more mature student chapters. Kimberly, anything different from as far as student chapter interactions? I know Western District, you guys have had the Student Leadership Summit for a few years now, for a while, and so you've got maybe some better connection between the student chapters. Is there anything different from your perspective?
Yeah, I think that Student Leadership Summit was like a game changer in really connecting the students. It's like they'll know that every 6 months they'll kind of see all the students again. They had the Student Leadership Summit in January and then our annual meeting in the summer. And I think it's really helped student chapters to kind of connect. I know that they're kind of joining up together to go do like transportation field trips or to visit even like someone's transportation office. So they're kind of doing a lot more things together. And even during COVID, as I mentioned, they were even doing some joint meetings together. I mean, it's virtual. The room's kind of limitless in terms of how many people you can have there. So they've really been able to kind of get ideas, from one another there.
Great. A couple of the other questions to touch on. What opportunities exist to engage the students directly with the transportation community? And maybe Dr. Sarasua, I know that you work with your students and try to engage them with some of the others within the South Carolina section. What goes well? If there's limited time, maybe a new student liaison has come on the scene, what's the one thing that they could do to try to really have the best return on their investment?
So again, helping us do like activities within the section or of course, I'm big on the district meetings and bringing the students there. That's a great way for the students to meet folks in the district. In our section, some of the things that we have done as a chapter, we've gone on retreats. So we went down to Charleston, for example, and we coordinated with Stantec and visited Stantec. We also visited the transit agency down there. We camped out at a campsite, though I actually stayed at Jeff Davis's house, And in fact, one of the things that we did was Jeff ordered everybody pizza and we tore apart his kitchen. So all the students got together and tore up his kitchen. And then when the students went back, I stayed down there and helped Jeff remodel his kitchen. And so I guess, whatever the liaison can do in terms of helping the chapter coordinate events within the section, that would just be awesome because, some of the things that we do, we definitely go to the annual meeting down in Columbia where, we have the student scholarships are given out and there's interaction there. And then of course the section meetings we go to as well. And if Clemson can do it, almost anybody can do it because Clemson is not the most convenient. So for example, in Atlanta, most of the meetings happen in Atlanta and Georgia Tech is right there. So there's not a lot of reason for Georgia Tech not to go to the section meetings because it's very convenient. Whereas for us, it's 3.5 hours to drive down to Charleston. It's 2 hours minimum to drive down to Columbia as a group. And again, this is prime time for school work, so it's like a Tuesday or whatever afternoon. And to go down, it does, it's 2 hours down and 2 hours back and, 2 hours there. And there's the day, and and that's one of the good things about virtual. If we go back to when we have these speakers or I do like driving off and doing some things with the students. At the same time, the virtual comes into it. Interaction, either virtually, but in person is always best. And so whatever the liaison can do to help foster these possibilities. And every so often, the chapter comes to us. So we had, for example, we were supposed to have the big Georgia, South Carolina section meeting here on campus at the Matter. We planned all that, and then it went virtual last year because of COVID. But that would have been a great event for networking, And so doing that between our state and also other sections and other states, I'm interacting with the professionals. And, I know we have a liaison, but we also, I'm kind of a liaison also because, again, I have so many friends in the, in the chapter, I'm sorry, at the professional level. And so there you go.
Yeah. So I think that we trying to go through. I know we've only got a couple minutes here. Trying to hit these other maybe kind of rapid fire questions here.
Real quick, Jody, just kind of jumping in off what Dr. Sarasua just said. One thing that T-Site does is our winter meeting is when we hold our section traffic bowl. What we do is we actually cycle that meeting location through the different schools. So 1 year UT Knoxville will host, the next year it's Vanderbilt's hosting, next year it's Memphis, next year it's Tennessee State, and it just keeps cycling through. So that is a good way to get involved, because we always have more students at those meetings.
Yeah, that is a great point. To get anytime that the chat or the section can meet on campus is a great opportunity to join those two together. Dr. Sisiapaku, I guess one of the other questions that was asked in the chat pod here was about engagement between the institute and the students. I know you mentioned advocating for transportation and trying to encourage more students to pursue transportation within UAB. You have any specific examples of how you guys do that?
First of all, we give some career seminars, and sometimes we invite professionals who are, again, volunteering, that mostly come from the industry, and this is a good way to do that. But also in Alabama, we have a job shadowing initiative where students may actually shadow professionals again, and this is a good thing. And another opportunity comes through internships. So a lot of our students will do internships, mainly focusing on transportation. And I thought, just to answer the question, but also to add this as something that the liaison can do, is to bring those opportunities to the faculty advisor or to the student chapter leadership, so that we have a better connection between what the industry needs and what our students can offer.
Okay, thank you. I guess Brian or Kimberly, real quick, when do you first reach out to your student chapter? As far as in the school year, is it shortly after the start of the semester, or when do you guys reach out to them?
Generally, I try to reach out the week of that semester starting. UT, they usually start on a Wednesday. I'll reach out either Monday, Tuesday, or that Wednesday, and just send a quick email. Hey, I'm Brian Bartnick, blah, 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 the T-Site Liaison. Or if it's a student I've worked with before, it's, hey, how was your summer? I hope everything went well. Have you come up with a schedule for your meetings yet? And just kind of jump in with basic things like that.
Okay. Kimberly, same?
I usually actually make contact with the students at the end of the previous school year when they're switching the officer board, so I can kind of make sure I get the right names and folks. And we usually just have a pretty easy, back and forth over email. So sometime around the start of the semester, I'll ask, do you want to have a sit down? I typically sit down with the students twice a year, once at the beginning of each semester, to kind of go through what their plans are. But it's always a very easy back and forth. They just email me. Some of them even text me if they need something. It's there's that group that's more comfortable over text. So, but yeah, it's usually at the end of the school year when I first meet the new board.
Okay, very good. Well, we have one last closing question, Jeff. If you want to, put that up. And like for folks to respond here, greatest need for student chapters. Well, I know we've covered a lot of material here, but you want to be responding to that, and I know we're running short on time. So while folks are responding, I wanted to just thank our panelists again for taking time out of their schedule. I know that it's a busy time of year for folks that are involved on campus. So thank you for taking time out of your schedule to meet with us and share your information, your knowledge with us. Hopefully we can do something like this again in the future, because I feel like we could have probably gone another hour. I had to skip over a lot of the canned questions that we already had just because we were running short on time. So thank you to all of our panelists for joining us. And looks like we've had about 14 people respond. So looking at faculty advisors, and then some local section and SDITE support. So as I mentioned, hopefully we'll be doing that a little more in the future. But thank you to all the attendees. As I mentioned at the start, the recording will be available on the SDITE YouTube page. So if there's somebody that you feel like should have been here, this is a great opportunity maybe to reach out to your alumni, reach out to your faculty advisor, reach out to your student leadership, and you can share that link with them and use that as an opportunity to kind of open the lines of communication for the year. And on behalf of SDITE, thanks for joining. And if you need anything, Education and Student Chapter Committee, we're here to support you. So just let us know what you need. So thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of. Oh, there he goes. We didn't get him muted in time. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the day.